Howdy, Sacred Mountain, living with CTE in the Wild West. And even though the title says that, I only have one chapter really dedicated to the disease itself, and that be this one. It's really interesting if you have issues with this disease, you know, maybe this would help you some. What do you call it? CTE? Punch drunk syndrome, concussion syndrome, traumatic brain injury, or just hit home with what it really is, brain damage. Whatever the cause, for me it was a lifetime of football. For others it may be boxing or a car accident. Hell, I even worked for a guy who got a ski pole stuck into his brain. Darren Powers was one hell of a guy to work for. I know that his issues of being an ass at work were more to do with his brain damage than anything. I know this because, like me, his intentions, at least toward his employees, were good. However, he was an animal to work for. I can remember him grabbing the phone out of my hand while I was talking to a tenant about a payment schedule to be make up for some rent. He grabbed the phone out of my hand and screamed at them to pay or get the F out. It was really shocking. He actually always had me in tears in one meeting. Me, this 330-pound football player, about to cry over him firing questions at me. I know now that we were both having brain damage issues at the time. He is lucky I didn't react differently. I quit that job. I often say now that I don't want to be a Darren Powers at work. I act just like him, but the real shitty part is that I work with my family. I have been diagnosed with probable CTE, concussion syndrome, traumatic brain injury, my favorite Hulk syndrome, or as my wife Wendy would say, neurological issues. I call myself a retard, but that's not really true. I have brain damage. Not just a little bit. The CTE is visible on my brain scans. My frontal lobe looks like the front of my football helmet with giant digs, stick marks, scar tissue. I can feel the tightness in the front of my head. It is painful all day and night. I have a damaged hippocampus, which most brain damaged folks have, I figure, due to the central location. That causes many problems, such as overreaction leading to rage and seizures. The last thing is the damage to my brainstem. That is why I can't be touched or hit in the back of the head. The funniest thing, and also the one that makes me cry, is my misshapen head and brain. It's misshapen. Misshapen end. I have been in hell for a few years now, but I've found a way out, a way back. My symptoms include loss of speech, right arm retraction and loss of control, retard arm, confusion, memory loss, overreaction, rage, sleep issues, seizure, tremor, itchy teeth. Itchy teeth sucks, by the way. Loss of appetite, multisensory overload, oh my God, light, sound, sensitivity, and that's about it. I am now writing this chapter for the other football players ready to eat a bullet, for all the boxers who can't talk, for all the car accident victims who are losing everything, to the Darren Powers, and really anyone ready to live a happier life. Darren Powers, okay guy in pain. Introduction. When people ask me in football, or point to my necklace, outscored football hanging from a shoestring, I say the only thing I talk about is going back to play semi-pro later in life with my son. At 36, me and my eldest boy played on a semi-pro team. Logan was quite good and beat out a former Tennessee Titan for Defensive Player of the Month. Logan was a defensive tackle and I was the offensive guard, so we went head up all practice long. It was a short experience. The season ended with Logan and I collided. He hit the ground and I tore my chest muscle. It didn't hurt much, but the blood ran down my arm inside the skin like a growing bruise. That night when my whole arm was black, we went in to get an x-ray to check it out. While there, we could see that when I hurt my arm so bad last year, I actually broke the main arm bone in two. I remember the play. It stuck out. I stuck my arm out to clothesline this guy who was trailing the running back through the hole I just made. Not too smart, but we scored. I didn't use that arm for a week, but after a week, I lifted on it and played in the next game. That was the year before I played with Logan. It was really funny because there was a break and the doctor was like, "Oh yes, your arm is broken." And then he goes, "No wait, that's an old break. That wasn't set." That's funny. The funny part was that you would see the outline of the side of my body exposing my largeness in the x-ray. It was funny. X-rays show a whole lot. Breaking the arm sucked, but not as painful as that tear. But all of this has always been masked by the broken brain. So yes, the highlight of a lifetime of football was playing against my boy, and now I get to worry about his mental health and treat my own. Here's a picture. I did lose about 100 pounds since then. I used to be a monster. Excuse me. I played from the time I was a child till I was 36 off and on, and I've always been the hardest hitter on every team. Hardest hitter with my head. What an idiot. It seems like common sense now, but back then we had so much face in them thin layer of plastic and hard forehead pad. The real liars are them bike and Rydell companies. They have the pain, suffering, and suicide on their karma. I have played youth, high school, college, and semi-pro. Never made any money at it. I did have a real inspirational comeback college football story, but it's just overcoming pain and suffering. I don't need to glorify that. I've been suffering my entire life with problems related to concussions in football. I attacked my first telephone pole at 16 years old. That really sounds quite funny that I say first. The term CTE is a new term, but there have been many others over the years for traumatic brain injury. In the 70s and 80s, they call it punch drunk syndrome. There is nothing happy or drunk about it. I suffer every waking hour. My brain will seize every few minutes all day long, night too if I'm not asleep. I have been treating myself with cannabis oil for the last 3 to 4 years, which was when the symptoms became more than just a bad temper and anxiety attacks. Almost 4 years back, I was experiencing so many crazy things in life with all the UFO contact, real estate, Old West pressure, a moldy office, and at the time, unknown to me, a broken brain. We all knew that I may someday have a problem with this. We saw the movie Concussion, and given my history, mentally and emotionally, I figured I would be screwed later in life. I had no idea this would be on me so early. I am now 44, so I guess this really got bad when I hit 40. For my entire life since puberty, I have been aggressive, intense, prone to anxiety attacks, and considered a bit crazy. I jokingly say that I am on the small bus when I'm being nice to myself, and I call myself an all-out retard most of the time. My current symptoms include seizures without pissing myself, thank God, parsing like shaking, loss of speech, arm retracts, retard arm, confusion, and waves of brain stalling, seizure, pain, usually an F or two. Kind of hard to read this. My first concussion was back when I was in high school as a junior playing on the varsity team. Back then when I really first started using my head as a tool to block, I would hit with my head and both hands at the same time. The trifecta, yeah right. I released inside to the defensive tackle to hit the linebacker, and my own running back earholed me. When you get hit from the side of the ear hole of your helmet. My helmet spun around backwards. He hit me hard enough that it snapped the chin strap and spun the thing right around. I can remember my nose being squashed to a point of pain. I pulled my helmet off and everyone and everything was standing sideways. It was like if you took a picture of a computer and hit the rotate button one time. Boop! I just stood there with my head cocked to the side trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Then I could hear coach yell, "Smith, get back in the huddle." It was practice right before the play game, so it was pretty intense. So funny looking back now. Who cares about all that? Hindsight is 20/20, and back then the entire world was blind. I can remember telling my coach my vision was sideways, and he insisted I finish the last of the plays. They just needed to go through a few more. Suck it up. Then, of course, I ended up in the hospital that night. I went through one of those tubes to take a picture of my brain. After it was over, the doctor called me and my parents back into the room where the TVs had my brain up on them, just off to the side of the tube room. CAT scan. The doctor said, looking right at me with my parents by my side, that I shouldn't play football anymore. He said that, well, I can't remember what he said, but he pointed out different things on my brain from the concussion that were not good. He then told my parents that if I ever come back in with another concussion, that he would ban me from playing. I actually didn't know if a doctor could do that. It was my choice, and I decided to keep playing. My team needed me. We were in the playoffs. I was back to practice the next week and played the next game. The doctor gave the great advice of taking Pedialyte for concussion therapy. That was a tool I used for many years to come, never going back to the doctor, always reminded they would keep me from playing. I have had well over 20 concussions over the years and was knocked out cold again at the old age of 35. When you're knocked out a bit silly, seeing stars or knocked out cold, it's the stomach ache after that lets you know you had a mild concussion. If you have a serious vision problem, then it's a major concussion. I had a few of them too. The major ones involve vision problems as well as stomach ache and head pressure. When I was a senior, I took the SAT test only after playing in a playoff game. The test was on Saturday, and I was ready having the practice test preset the week before. I was also ready for the playoff game on Friday night. Friday night I was responsible for handling a monster bigger than me at 360 pounds. I remember his weight and what it felt like to hit him. I would hit him as hard as I could, both head up and running at him, and he just absorbed the hit. It was a battle, and it hurt. By the next day, I was not feeling right. I can remember taking the test and being super dizzy. I guessed on a lot of it just to get through the experience. When I looked down at the answer sheet to turn in, I noticed that I had bleeding on the test. I didn't realize I had a nosebleed. I was very lucky that no blood got on the answer sheet. People were worried about AIDS back then, and I was more worried about what people thought about my test. I turned in the sheet in with one hand and walked out of the room with the other holding my nose shut. I scored a 950, which was good enough to get me into college. The average of the school I went to was 1200. Without football, I wouldn't have gotten into any school with that score. But with football, what would I have scored? Without football, what would I have scored? I do often wonder what my life would have been like if we listened to that first doctor. Was the damage done by then? Would I have been a nerd, rich, poor? Who cares? I have a great life, wonderful kids, beautiful wife, just on the small bus. Whew. It was almost 4 years back when I was picking up some items at the hardware store down in Lake Isabella and was so dizzy I could barely walk. That would be about 4 years after semi-pro with Logan. I had trouble driving home and was dizzy. It was like I had smoked something way stronger than cannabis. I woke up the next morning and couldn't speak, no matter how hard I tried to get the words out. I would just have my mouth lock open and I would... For a few days before, I was complaining about frontal brain pressure. I would say to Wendy, my beautiful wife, I could feel my brain in there and it's not right, like a vice grip on the front of my head. This was the first set of symptoms, the vice grip and loss of speech. It was hell. For 3 days I couldn't get a word out. Trying to type to communicate was way too slow. What a thing to happen to a real estate broker. We didn't know if I had a stroke or what the deal was. I was using the power of pointing and notes to help Wendy to connect to my clients. I was just stuck without any way to move forward. While scrolling through the channels, I happened on the movie Casino. I had seen it a handful of times, but it was the only thing on at the time, so I put it on. How crazy is that? All them channels, all they could put anything, they can't put on anything new that's worth watching, right? Anyways, while watching Casino, I just happened to say the F word at the same time as Joe Pesci, and the word came out. I just said it. It was then followed by some other cuss words. After about 20 F-bombs and some other more colorful stuff, I realized I could make sentences as long as they had a cuss word somewhere in there. It was a bit like, shit, how's it going, Effer? Or goddamn, what do you want for dinner? It worked for me, and at the time I had no idea why. The speech itself was a bit slurred, but as long as there was the cuss word in there, I could get what I wanted out. This only went on for a day or two before I decided that I would get on the cancer dose of oil. We had been living in the modern day Old West in our ranch for about 15 years at the time. Our four boys called their forever home at the time. Who knew? We had been involved a few years back in helping a cancer patient obtain a special cancer-fighting cannabis oil that also is supposed to help with brain issues. They said it can regrow nerve cells. It sure worked over the years on so many different cancers that we figured out why not try. I think it was Wendy who said, why don't you try your oil? It can't hurt. I immediately thought, oh yeah, at least I can be really high. And that was actually my first impulse for taking it. Over the years, so many friends and relatives with cancer say they could handle being that high at the time. What did they call it on the news? Therapeutic? Yes, it was therapeutic that gave me my speech back. It was a bit slower and slurred, but I could get all the words out without cursing too much. I was able to work for as long as it lasted. That was the only problem that I talk about now, living on the oil clock. After being on This for over 3 years. I perfected how it could help me. I take a dose of oil in the morning at 10 a.m. when my brain heats up and symptoms start. Then at 3 p.m. when the oil is gone and the bad symptoms come back, I take another dose. That will only last for about half the time. About 6 p.m. I turn back again to pain, and then for 2 years I would drink wine. I actually tried absolutely everything from a doctor and not, and the only thing that gives relief without horrible side effects is the cannabis oil, but it's not perfect and life is a challenge. During these first 2 years, Wendy would help me with real estate communications, and I would be on the oil clock, meeting clients and selling ranches. We got by and were doing well working as a real estate team. It was not fun though. No matter what I was doing, it was always under a cloud of mental pain, cannabis, and wine. You know, I have fun, but there is never joy, or it's so rare that I don't know the emotion too well, which is really the most ironic because my life, besides the sickness, is really good. Over the last few years, I've tried to end my life only a handful of times, usually when Wendy and I are not getting along. They say it's 6, but I only recall the good ones. I do believe that people are destined for certain things, and that when it's your time, not before. But damn, you sure can screw yourself up. At least that has been true for me thus far. I can't remember the order of the horrible attempts at ending the suffering. So I'll just start with the Plinkster. I have a .22 rifle that I am proud of. It's my only gun. My wife is a real shooter, gun person, so my faithful .22. I was given up and took the rifle out, backed up, started the hill. We live on 47-acre ranch and had plenty of room to be stupid. She attempted to get me. It was a horrible situation, and I did pull the trigger twice. The gun jammed once, I unjammed it, and then it jammed again. At that point, I threw it down and gave up in frustration. My wife was a real hero that day as she was willing to risk herself to stop me. A different time when I was low, I jumped out of the Jeep while I was driving down our own driveway. Kind of pathetic attempt, but F, did that hurt. Stuck the landing. It didn't do anything but make me sore. I stuck a hose in my tailpipe and relaxed for a while. Wendy came to the rescue that time. The best one was the cow. So as the story goes, I'm not sure if I knew the cow was there. I was angry driving under the influence of medication, some wine, and in a panic. I left and was heading down south to my parents' house. I was driving way too fast when I got a call from Wendy that I had left my wallet. In a rage, I spun the car around and was speeding around 80 miles an hour across Walker Basin, and I hit this cow. One of the first lessons I learned in football was about inertia. The rule that speed and size are both factors in a collision. If I hit them harder than they hit me, I wouldn't get hurt. That is true to some extent. I hit the full-size cow doing about 80, no brakes. The cow hit the front of the little Toyota Corolla and smashed in the front. The cow shit in the hood as its back hit the window. I was not wearing a seatbelt, of course, and my head hit the window at the same time as the cow. Because of the speed I was traveling, my head in the front of the Toyota took the impact of the cow, and it was like we punted away the cow. The cow flew a good 20 feet off the side of the road. The cow was now dead, but I was just the same. The car was still running, with half of a motor smashed in, so I clanked it back to the ranch. I had a big hangover the next day, or another concussion, or both, and it smashed Logan's Corolla. Oops. So here's the smashed Corolla. You can see where the cow's ass hit the thing, and then the ball hit there, and we had to go to the window. All right. You know, it's not the pain, the writhing all day. It's what I put everyone around me through that's so tough. I love my wife and kids, and they don't deserve to see me as a retard or hear me moan all night. That it's usually the toughest things that bring me to this point, because you see, they're the only reasons we're fighting for. For anyone with CTE that wants the easy way out, I know that killing myself would do even more harm to them. Instead, I will teach them to fight. I'm not a quitter. I don't quit when the doctors wanted me to, and I'm not now. So who cares? Football puts you on the small bus. We're all still riding. During that time, I visited as a sports neuro something, a doctor that was specialized in CTE. He suggested many things that helped me. He's had several football players that were seeing him, and there were a few things that he said that really stuck. Dr. Nixon's a good guy. He said that while I'm through all this, I'm able to get the oil and have it, which most people couldn't come across it or afford if they did, and it's a good cure for me. He also pointed out that my environment and daily life was contributing. It's a big thing. That is really true. Nixon explained it like this: the brain will heat up, and without the blood supply that I need, it overheats. Makes sense to me and helped me when I am handling stress. Nixon let me know that cussing comes from a different part of the brain, so that helping me speak actually made sense. When I am complaining about other doctors, he said the brain imaging is really not that great, and he equated looking at your plumbing in your house from a helicopter. So seeing the little vascular issues really isn't possible. This helped me with my other doctor appointments. Doctors are not the smartest people. Most don't do problem solving, but they're so quick to say they know or prescribe. I have told a doctor that I'm going to throw him out of a window if he didn't act right. This was only after I was escorted out of the building by security when I tried to see a neuropsychologist or neurologist in LA. This little doctor came in the room and said, "Looks like I have a depression." Then we told him my symptoms and the pre-diagnosis of CTE. The little bastard said, "Oh yeah, what team's you on then?" I lost it and left yelling at him. Never touched that little excuse of a man, but the entire hospital mobilized to escort me out. One nurse was chasing us saying I hit a doctor, which was a lie. When he got me out of that one, back to the good Dr. Nixon. He said that I should be happy I have a cure and can live with this. Most people can't. Basically, he told me to suck it up, and that resonated with me. I do a bit better now than back then because I don't drink anymore. When the oil wears off, I just take pain, smoke more bud. I do still think about ending it, especially when there's too much stress. CTE was first diagnosed in me by Dr. Vickery in LA. He diagnosed me with Hulk syndrome, which was a great description for CTE. For about 20 years, I lived with Hulk syndrome and was totally good with it. It's who I am. I've been that way my whole life. It's when CTE starts to turn into more serious problems. After you've had CTE for too long, then the small bus will come and get you. It will. Recently, I had an MRI. Don't ever take one of those. They're horrible. I'm told that they now can see my frontal brain damage. They call it chronic. But it has nothing to do with good bud. Don't worry. Most quarterbacks, wide receivers, and them highly paid pretty boys won't have to worry about this. It's the linemen who get no glory, get paid way less, if they make the pros and do all the work. Kind of like our current society, right? We look to all these supposed great people, but what have they really done? I've had a full life of crazy wild adventures, and the last 20 years are in the book. Football made me a tough. The mountain made me a man. Brain scans. Without the mountain, I would have never made it this far. Being out on a ranch helped me cope with who I am and what was happening to me. There was always questions until we got the brain scan back and demanded the pictures. It's a big deal. The report just said an aged brain with verbiage to dismiss and confuse, but the pictures show major damage. My football helmet back in high school looked disturbing with massive digs on both sides and the front of it. The brain pictures show damage on both sides of the frontal lobes, which look just like the helmet. Instead of digs, they're scars, and according to the radiologist report, light intensity in the foci of some BS like that. Pictures don't lie. Doctors are part of a profession like many others that use vocabulary, terminology, and nomenclature to assert that they are an authority. Why not call it a finger bone? Phalange. Right? The pictures don't lie, and they don't have silly names to assert control. They are just the truth. If you're having issues with brain problems, get the scans for yourself on a CD. Doctors are overworked and not problem solvers. I am now part of the mental health with Dr. Huezo, which I say Cuervo a lot because I like to call him Cuervo, but his name is Huezo. Good guy, big help. My scans showed a damaged hippocampus, looks more like a gorilla, or actually my entire head and brain are misshapen from hitting. It's weird, I call myself Gorilla Grodd. Ha! Super smart gorilla man. If you've seen the ancients with the elongated head, that looks a bit like me. And when my hair's gone, you can kind of more see that it's smashed. You can see, yeah. You can see the misshapen head, but on the scan, the skull shows it much more. My damaged gorilla-looking head. Ha ha! The last thing is the damaged brainstem, which I'm sure most footballers have to some extent. I cannot be hit on the back of the head. It had always taken me off my feet, not even a slap or pat on the back of the head. I know now from my scans there is a damage to this brain stem. It makes sense. I demanded my scans on CTE. It was difficult to obtain them. If I didn't look for myself, I would have no idea of the damage. It has given me strength over the whole condition. If you have problems with your brain, get the pictures. Don't take the doctor's lame words for them. They don't even have time to think about you. Doctors, Western medicine is pathetic. Oil in the clock. As I mentioned above, my medication of choice is full spectrum Rip Simpson oil. I explain more about it in a chapter on cannabis. There are so many different medications to try and all of them are horrible. Dr. Nixon explained to me like this: if a regular brain has a hangover or come down, it is a bit of a bummer. But when someone like me has a come down, it's horrific and terrible because I'm coming back to horrible. I'm not coming back to normal. Over the years, I have known that to be true regarding everything except cannabis. With cannabis, you get to go back to normal when it's out of your system, which is bad enough, but at least there's not worse than normal. The oil works for me as long as it works. I get a full 8-hour day, and it's a major reason I'm able to type this book. The amount of oil I take is astonishing to most in the industry. I take a large amount, so large that if you're going to root, you would have to build up a tolerance to get the dose size. I drink coffee I drink coffee so I don't just pass out. It does take the pain or edge off just enough to function. I do function, and even more than that. Dr. Nixon said I should focus on working on 3 things a day. I usually accomplish 4 things a day, usually pushing myself too hard. It is delicate dance that I do with medication, work, family, and life, and it's a real rough road. However, I would rather be off-roading through my life than ending it most days. I have accomplished so much in the past few years being sick. The oil is expensive, however, now you can legally buy it in California. I also smoke a ton of bud, about an ounce a week. I have to say that if you're dealing with this and don't take cannabis, you need to start. Our brains have cannabis receptors. We are born with that, which allows us to take in the medication and have its effects worse. Most animals are born with these special receptors that only work for bud. If we're born to eat and smoke it, then it makes sense it would be a perfect compound for serious issues. If you're an old footballer, don't take doctor bullshit drugs. The side effects will kill you or make you suffer worse. If you need a good personal doctor, I suggest Cuervo and Hueso. And if you need a sports neuro something to talk to, then you should see Dr. Nixon. He's the best. Whew! Here's a fun one. LSD. Lysergic dilethomide. Cannabis is a hallucinogen, which is always hard for me to understand in the past. If you take or consume enough of it, not smoke bud, eat it a whole lot, then yes, you're mildly tripping. What is tripping? It is taking your mind to an hallucinogenic state so that you see the world differently. People say when you have tripped, it adds years to your life. The reason is all the self-reflection that you end up doing. According to my brain scan, I am a 44-year-old man with a brain ready to die. I say my brain is around 237 years old. 239 now. According to the trip calendar, I am now 1,000 years old. For a time, I used illicit drugs to treat my earlier symptoms. I was glad to get the brain scan and see for myself that it was obvious football scars and damage. LSD, or lysergic acid dilethomide, opens up parts of your mind that are not being used. It makes you smarter. I figured that's why it is considered so illegal. I also find it funny that some prescriptions on the TV have side effects of Parkinson's or TD, where you get tics and can't control movement. So horrible. None of the street drugs are as bad as pharmaceuticals. Street drugs can kill you, but has less side effects. LSD is hard to find and even harder to find clean. I wouldn't recommend taking it unless you have a trusted source. I got my hands on some a few years back. I did use it for symptoms. It completely worked. However, it does also have some side effects. Taking acid every day, or every other day for a couple years really helped me. I think there's like a movie about a guy who did that, and it was like some funny thing. Some CIA guy or something. I did it to myself. It helped. After seeing my brain scan, I now know that the LSD is what was helping me to use other parts of my brain too. Talk, type, do construction, and fully function. I, however, do not get to that state without all the cannabis. Cannabis is an hallucinogen with no side effects. It's way better. You just got to eat a ton of it. Alcohol. I used to drink wine in the evening when the cannabis wears off. Wine is the best choice for me because if you drink too much, you get sick. I would have a limit of no more than 2 bottles a night. The problem with alcohol is twofold. The first is mentioned above, and that is the come down. When people like me get a hangover, it isn't just a little thing because of our normal state is so painful and uncomfortable. Going even lower is just not acceptable. I found that I was treating my alcohol come down like it was another symptom. The second issue with alcohol is that it destroys lives. I have to be honest and say that alcohol gets rid of symptoms as long as you're up. It puts the front of the brain to sleep and that feels good. However, when it starts to wake up again, it's so horrible that you end up treating the hangover with more alcohol or cannabis. When you're down lower than low, it's real hard to deal with the job, wife, kids, and life. I had to give the alcohol up to keep the family together. If I feel bad in the evening now, I just eat cannabis butter. It's a bit different than the oil and can be taken when the oil doesn't work in the evenings. It's not fun eating raw cannabis butter though. Yuck. Sugar. No sugar. Sugar's bad. Why would I eat raw butter? For a while I was buying edibles, however you can't find them even without sugar in them. Given that, I made my own butter to eat 3 helping spoonfuls most evening. I gave up sugar a few months ago as I was showing signs of diabetic. It didn't just work. I have lost a couple of sizes and it's helped me out tremendously. It was about 90 pounds total. If you're suffering from any disease, especially one of the mind, get rid of sugar. Sugar causes inflammation of everything in your body. It is a horrible drug that our bodies are not designed to take so much of. Please, if you're reading this, start reading labels for the sugar. Sugar is bad for the brain. Fats are good. And I have lost a ton of weight by eating high fat and no sugar. Sour cream's great. This will blow your mind in a regular bowl of cereal that children eat every morning. There are 12 grams of sugar in cornflakes. The one with the tiger, 12 grams for 1 cup. Then you add the milk with sugar, it goes into 22 grams. That is about what sugar a kid's supposed to consume all day. Most kids eat 2 servings. That's twice the daily sugar advised by the medical community in just the kid's breakfast. It's toxic and even worse if you're already sick. Sex. I'm not sure how this would affect a woman, but I'm speaking for men with this regard. One of the coolest things about losing inches in the waist and midsection is the length of your manhood increases. It's embarrassing. I don't know. In men, if men knew that giving up sugar would give them an extra inch or 2, then they think they would be better than any diet program I've seen. I've always been super horny. I know that it isn't always been a really good coping technique. There are so many techniques you could use to get off, but the act of getting it hard is what brings the relief. It's a vascular thing. If you're filling your manhood up with blood, then you're relieving vascular pressure mentally. I tell my beautiful wife, Wendy, that sex is now considered medicinal. She's laughing behind there. Meaning it needs to be part of my treatment. At least twice a day. It doesn't really work as a ploy, but the weight loss sure helps. The real problem with the disease is the family issues. I need my wife for so much, but it's hard to treat how she feels when she should treat and how that's hard, tongue twister, but it's hard to treat her how she feels she should be treated and how society expects. Got that up. I am glad that she knows now and I am not just an asshole, but have a reason for my problems. Not an excuse, but a cause. Thank you, Wendy, for being there for me. Hope I can fix this again and live a good life. Again? Massage. Wendy by trade is a massage therapist, even more so a massage instructor. When Dr. Nissen suggested foot massage as treatment, that was an easy one. My wife helps me with that. You have to think that massage would affect the brain in the opposite way that the stress of life do. If work requires that you dig all day, then your body is using all the muscles to move dirt. If you get a massage, then the working out the muscles sends good relaxing, resting signals back to the brain. A human's hands and feet are the end of the line for blood flow and more importantly the nerves. All of them nerves ending in the fingers and toes. We use them as species for dexterity. We use them for all types of things such as typing this and digging a hole. Totally interesting to me is the correlation between these nerve endings and the corresponding body systems that are connected. I like to have Wendy tell me the part of the body she is working when pushing on different parts of my feet and hands. There are parts that hit the heart, the kidneys, really all the organs, and more importantly, the brain. The brain is connected to all the organs and the rest of the feet and hands directly. By getting a foot massage, Wendy is hijacking my brain and reprogramming it for relaxation instead of overheating. Foot massage has become a tool against this disease if I am not too much of an ass to receive it. The full body massage with the cranial is hard to get through lying down, but has tremendous results. Done a couple times. Okay. Whew. Awesome. Environmental. Our everyday environmental stresses are so uncool. For most of us, there is so much stress associated with our life that adulthood kind of sucks. That is not just for sick people, but all that worry about money, relationships, even what's for dinner can be so hard. Just like that, when I was shown pictures of my brain, when you receive knowledge, even if it's negative, it still gives you a power over it. Our modern day environment is totally unhealthy and toxic. One can realize that stress is not from the natural environment, but from our man-made one. You can overcome the daily bullshit, or at least know what battle you're really fighting. Being sick, I am constantly battling against the daily stress to overcome and live. However, that is a problem that most of us humans face. It's man-made bullshit. Dr. Nixon again had it correct that we as humans, and more so me, should only take a few things on a day. And really, what the trick is to identify things in our daily life that suck and fix them or avoid them. We now know that there is a daily battle between our man-made toxic environment and our will to survive and be healthy. A few things to avoid for brain issues are bright lights. Man-made lights will overheat the brain very quickly for me. If you're sick like me, don't hesitate to wear sunglasses at night. The sun doesn't hurt because it's a constant, but the changing, flashing, or bright lights cause increased stimulation so much that it can hurt you even if you're unaware. Turn all the lights off in your house. Then turn the TV on in a different room and watch the strobe light emitting from the box. It's trippy. Do the experiment and blow your mind. Everyone wants a bigger and bigger TV. Bigger strobe lights will hurt you us very quickly. Be careful. Get a small TV if you need a coping method. Be sure if you need to use the restroom that you won't hold it. It's just more stress on the brain. I live in California, so I piss anywhere the Jeep stops and I can whip it out without being seen. Pretty sure that's legal here now because of all the homelessness. Thank you. Music. Music is definitely one of those life and death choices. There are so many songs that have rhythms which I can no longer handle. Wendy said music affects the entire brain. I tend to be listening to some old man music lately. I also enjoy, of course, mushroom jazz and most tracks of Logandi, who happens to be my son. There are many modern songs that have nice rhythm, but when you listen to them, the words is pure evil. So many about breakups, negativity, and even a few about the sacrifice of innocent. Super nice beats you'd end up singing to, but when are them words what are the words saying? Pay attention. Wendy also said, what are we talking about? We bring about. So if we're singing to a negative song about breaking up, then maybe the relationship may be not so good that night, right? Or what about the song Rocket Man about leaving a woman for a gay lifestyle? Not about space travel. You think you're singing about, I'm going to go to the moon, but you're really singing about, going over to meet so-and-so. Not about space travel. Recently, there is a song I was humming to the words, and it was we're just lions, it's just blood, there's just innocent, and then they're gone, some bullshit like that. Seriously, pay attention. I didn't think many of these songs currently speak to the earlier question of who is in charge of this world, and what is the real reason for keeping us down and programmed. Some fun songs recently have been Hugo Montenegro, who does the theme from the old westerns. As I said, mushroom jazz, I smoked out with Steel Pulse during a concert. They are great inspirations. So many good songs, but also so many tricks. Good music for the brain is is a tool I use daily, all day long. Pandora is quite a cool thing. I also use the noise to drown out conversations and also keep the ones around me from hearing me moaning in agony. All right. Logandi. As mentioned, my boy Logan is a DJ. He also is a real estate agent working for me at Sacred Mountain, but I had mentioned his DJing as his experience in the chapter. I had no idea how Logan would do with the DJing thing. His first real gig was to play at the Avalon in LA, which is a venue that's right downtown Hollywood. It was cool to go to and watch. It was different for me to handle all of the excitement, however, it was well worth it. We showed up and I had to wear my sunglasses at night to be able to even get to be in Hollywood. It was all good though. Most people just thought I was wasted, and that's all okay when you're going to a concert. We had a great time dancing with all the people that were there from Kern County to watch Logan. It was cool to see people dancing to the music. There was an issue with the download or equipment. It was a bit funny. There are multiple stages and Logan's music stopped. Wendy approached the bartender nearest the stage that Logan was playing. Wendy said, "The DJ's having trouble and needs help." The bartender blew Wendy off, so Wendy said, "I'm the DJ's mother and the DJ needs some help." The sound cut out. The mother call got them going on. The music was soon bumping again. We danced all night long. Logan moved to another stage way in the back when his sets were over. We were dancing back there and having a great time. Logan started spinning with another DJ and it was so memorable. That kid put on the 80s song Sunglasses at Night. It was really cool and a bit funny. Just a time after that, we were shocked to have the club people come to the back and say, "What are you all doing here? The club's been closed for an hour." It was about 3 a.m. We had been dancing all night. As a parent, I like to think all that late night dancing helped to elevate Logan. He did go back for many other concerts, and let me tell you, dancing backstage on the main stage to my son's music was an epic journey I'll never forget. You could check out Logandi on SoundCloud for some of his music. It is too fast or harsh for us old folks, but really enjoy listening to the track. My favorite track, called Breaks. Here's some pictures when we were there that night. Here's my kid. Okay. Oh. I can make it. Angels. My first book, Seeds in the Wind, I wanted to name the book of Life, but the Seeds in the Wind was a good metaphor. However, now this is the book of my life. One half of the book, Seeds, is about our first UFO abduction, and the other half is the lost teachings of Jesus. You see, Jesus was a teacher of the Kabbalah. You can study what he taught word for word in my first book. The old religion, the truth. When I say we are in a daily battle and it's our choice, life or death, that is true, but we are not alone in this struggle. It is simple and cannot be denied. Each one of us is a magical creation, wondrous, beautiful, and full of divinity. People who smoke cannabis for the magic, the true connoisseur will use a bong. The cannabis snob will tell you it preserves the flavor while filtering the smoke through water. The cool magi understands the bog itself is a magical instrument, combining all the melons together to give you the toke. You have the flame, the fire, the water, the earth, the glass, and what you're smoking, of course, the air, the smoke itself. A complete magical journey all achieved within one hit. Us as humans are exactly the same. A complete magical experience in every breath. The angel of air controls our breathing, the storm of electricity, which is our thought and mind. The angel of water controls our vascular system and the digestion. The angel of earth gives rise to our organs, our heart. The angel of fire arises from the workings of the air and the water. The fuel that breathes the fire within, the willpower I'm using to write this. All together, we as humans have our own personal set of angels using the magic of creation to give us life every minute of every day. I give you this proof, this hidden knowledge to prove at this point. If you need more, then you can read Seeds in the Wind on Amazon. I think it's $4 on the online version. Did you know why Christians fast? It is simple. However, you won't hear it in any church by any pastor, and maybe from a rabbi, but probably not. We fast not to suffer the Lord. So stupid. We fast to give our personal angels a break from running our bodies, digesting our food. We give them a break so they can work for our positive aspects in our life. This was spoken by the great Magi Jesus in year 0. The second offer of proof I give is this quote from the lips of the same Magi. The Lord's Prayer left out this empowering half, and I want you to have it, especially if you have brain issues, because this can help you. Our Mother, which art upon earth, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, and thy will be done in us, as it is in thee. And thou sendest every day thy angels, send them to us also. Forgive us our sins, as we atone all our sins against thee. And lead us not into sickness, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the earth, the body, and the health. Amen. And they prayed together with the Magi Jesus to the Heavenly Father and the earthly Mother, taken from the Essene Gospel of Peace, Dead Sea Scroll, first translation. First spoken by the Magi Jesus in year 0, Seeds in the Wind, Trafford Postley. Okay, enough of that church stuff. Let's move on to something else here. Charging station. This is wild. I'm going to include this in the trailer that comes up on my video so y'all can see the charging station. It's neat. That there reading above is super serious. Let's calm things down a bit and talk about some construction. We are currently rebuilding this old house at the river to live in. It was a bit crazy project to take on, and after a year, we're about done. I was waking up, about half asleep and half awake, and I had a vision. I can only describe it as that. A message from my angel of air. We had put super sweet quartz-like counters in our new house, bing bing right here, and had a couple extra pieces. I know that quartz can hold a charge like a battery. A few years earlier, I actually hooked up a quartz crystal to a car battery. It fractured when that much current hit it. I guess it holds low level current. I had heard that crystal can also hold information like a computer. We used one piece on the floor to put our wood burning stove on top of, over there. I happened to stand on it with bare feet, and with some curiosity, given what I know, I felt something, not much, but something. So flash forward to this dream vision. It was a vision of building this charging station. How it works is that I use the quartz crystal to create a grounding station hooked directly to Mother Earth's electrical current. It's a low level current, but the thought is that it is in complete balance with Mother Earth and her angel's frequency, and thus should be a good thing. In our garden, there's a giant old mechanical pump from the old west days of gold mining. This huge hub of metal is suspended in the air on 2 wood posts. It's important it's off the ground. So it's a huge piece of metal in the air, not touching the ground. I had a vision to hook the wire to the hunk of metal and attach that wire to the quartz slab piece. On the other side, a few feet away, I pounded in about 4 to 5 feet of a 3/4 inch copper pipe I had left from the bathroom plumbing. I then hooked that pipe to another wire and fed it to the quartz slab, creating a circuit with Mother Earth herself. I use it almost every day. I'm going to use it when I'm done reading totally. Wendy is keeping scientific notes. When I stand in it, I feel the current start in my feet. It relaxes every muscle as it moves up my body. I can feel it most when it hits my certain areas like my knees, the pelvic region, and my chest. When it hits my heart beats harder, not faster, it just beats perfect and hard. Then it moves to my neck and hits my brain. When it hits my brain, I've been giving it as long as I can handle. I find myself stretching out my back and arms, feeling taller, loose, and comfortable. My brain feels like it is being rewired. I'm getting sharper, smarter, still in pain and suffering, but I'm typing really fast. I think it helps to connect different nerves in the brain. Opens everything up, even the sinuses. My mother has tried it and feels relief from her issues, the arthritis or something. I, however, am not allowing others to use it yet. It works. Works a lot. If you come and stay at my place, Sacred Mountain River Suites, you can check that out online, sacredmountainriversuites.com. You can come check out the charging station. It's really interesting. I think I'd let people stand on it now with an indemnification provision probably. Anyways, here we go. Itchy teeth. Itchy teeth suck. Oh my God, their itchy teeth are and evil. Okay, this is fun. I'm writing this chapter for footballers who are suffering and other brain issues. This here does apply to everyone. when I was watching the film Concussion, I was happy to see that the first guy, Iron Mike, I believe was his name, had teeth issues. He was ripping his teeth out and then gluing them back in. While it sounds crazy, it makes so much sense to me and helps me when I'm getting the itchy teeth. We all have teeth, and they are each one a big nerve connected right to the brain. I can't stand going to the dentist, but if we as humans are going to take care of any part of our brains, we should make sure our teeth are good. The second thing we all deal with is evil. I don't have to say that demons or fallen angels, let them say evil. If you're hearing voices in your head and they're telling you do anything, then they're evil. You know, evil attacks us when we're all at our weakest. I hear voices saying that I will die on Tuesday or Sunday. It's so funny to me. I actually said out loud today, okay, sounds good. I like a chilling taunt. I like a child. It's like a child taunting you. If it doesn't upset you, then it didn't work. I've suffered enough that I don't care, so that doesn't work against me. If you're suffering like me and you hear the voices say to end it all, may even give you reasons why. Know that it's your choice, life or death. If you choose death, you're weak. If you choose life, it's a struggle. Power tools, shopping, and lists. This is important. This one is simple. They all suck. Shopping is horrible for major reasons. The first and foremost is the lighting that is used in commercial stores. They use fluorescent lights, which are horrible for people with brain issues. Too bright and unnatural. It will cause the brain to heat like a heat lamp. Did you know that in a grocery store they have to keep the produce covered or the fluorescent lights turn them taters green? Yeah, at night. We all know green taters are toxic. Why do they use them lights? The second and more prominent aspect of shopping, horrible nature, is all the choices. If you look at the grocery store shelf, there are so many different things to look at and read, it becomes an overwhelming factor real quick. The final issue is all the people you will most likely encounter. Some idiots will most definitely cause a problem, it's guaranteed. Shoppers lists or computer lists or any lists where you have to scan with an eye can become a problem real quick. Knowing this about shopping and lists helps me to be able to do the shopping. The first thing I do is I am deliberate in what I get, so I'm not scanning shelves trying to make a decision. The second thing I do is wear sunglasses. People look at me weird like I'm wasted, but to hell with them. It allows me to be in a store. Without that, they don't get my money, and I tip. Power tools can injure you and undo healing that was done. Don't use them tools, jackhammers, screw gun while squatting. Don't use anything. Don't do it while squatting. Don't ever do that. Really, don't go anywhere. Don't do anything while squatting. Just don't do it. I wish I could follow my own advice. Squatting pushes blood pressure up into your brain. And if you have vascular issues, that blood pressure is hard to relieve. Causes major problems. No squatting. Squatting's bad. No sugar. Sugar is bad. Okay, here we go. Keep going. Woo! Passing out. I tell Wendy that the hard thing to do is use the restroom in the morning and taking a shower. The amount of willpower that it takes to feel the shower at first is intense. In addition, my brain is in agony until I can relieve my abdomen of pressure. No need to use the toilet. Pressure is no good. Stress at work is no good. Actual physical pressure is not good. Shopping pressure is a killer. The only pressure that helps the condition is a hard-on. Woo! I wrote that. It's funny, right? Woo-hoo! I do obviously use the pressure release to sleep if I'm lucky. Our spouses take the brunt of our condition, but that's who we need the most. Quitting. Is all of this worth it? It sure doesn't seem worth it on days that are bad. For me, the anguish is pretty tough to get through. When I'm down, I think my kids would be better off without me or my wife. I think all about my retard ways. I use every COVID method mentioned above every day, from one thing to another to keep going. I choose life and in doing so, and I'm fighting back against the pain, against the medical community and against evil. The doctor that I threatened to throw out the window was actually a real good guy. His only problem that he worked for Kaiser. He told me this and it has stuck. Actually, he has asked me if I was a quitter. That resonated with me so much. It stuck out for every football team every year, year after year, pushing me to the limits for this sport. If I wasn't going to quit for a game, you bet that I won't quit for my boys or my family. To any footballer reading this or even being read this, don't be a quitter. You never were in life. Why now? If you were a quitter, you wouldn't even have played the game. Suck it up. Life it isn't as nearly as bad as conditioning. Think about that, right? Forget about it. The NFL combine, oh my God. We used to have to do that before every practice. That's insane. Here we go, okay. Life or death, it's our choice. I have to make the choice every day. Hope. Don't worry, I won't leave you, especially at the end of this chapter, without a hoorah bullshit. Let's talk about hope. I can tell you truly that I didn't have hope for another healing, then I would be one depressed man. Once while I was jacking up a tire with one of those high-lift Jeep jacks, I happened to knock myself out cold in the exact manner the warning sticker described. It was really funny. And for a short time, my symptoms were gone. I don't know if my frontal part of my brain was offline or what, but for a short afternoon, I had complete relief. At the time, I was about 1.5 years into the nightmare. And at the time, it gave me a little hope. Dr. Nixon thought maybe I didn't have CTE because of the relief. I know now it's the real brain damage visible on the scan, and where I got hit was right where all that frontal damage is. So there is hope, and at the time I keep saying I just need a lobotomy. Maybe a liquid one. Haha, yeah, right, I did that. It was enough to keep me going, but really kind of weak. The again stated earlier was the influence in my full healing remission. The scars and damage were still there, but the oil after 3 years of use, combined with complete loss of stress and the fat bank account, allowed for my brain to find a way to think around all the damage, think around all the pain and the retardation. I was healed, and that was why I have hope I can do it again. You will read later that I chose a house and life for my family over my health, and so now I'm fighting to get the health back I had just had 1 year ago. I will offering a CTE brain damage weekend package for anyone or couple in need of help or counseling. There's a lot more to this that I have come across since I wrote this chapter, and I want to now give you all real hope. After being on the oil for 5 years, I can speak and function without the oil. I have some joy in my life here and there. And there is a ways around this. People get shot in the head and they come back. Just because we have this damage doesn't mean we can't find a way around it. And the biggest thing is our environment. So, peace to you guys. Anybody who's suffering, peace to you.